Hey, it's Ashwin and Ed again with episode 4 of Over Budget. Before we introduce today's guest, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, turn notifications on. This is going to help us get more and more brilliant guests like today's. We're joined by Ben Kruger, who is the CMO of Event Tickets Center, a online ticketing platform. They spend a very large amount of money on Google Ads across search and Performance Max and
Say the number.
120 million.
Yes.
$120 million a year on Google Ads. So yeah, Ben knows what he's talking about, and he also knows what he's talking about because he used to work at Google as an e-commerce growth consultant. Genuinely believe that if Google had more people like Ben, we'd be complaining a lot less about their ad reps. And he's worked in direct to consumer. He's worked in SaaS. So Ben's done it all. He's all over the digital marketing landscape. So really happy to have him on board. And I think one of the more independent thinkers in digital marketing, which we need more of desperately. Ben, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show.
Yeah, likewise. Happy to be here. Thanks for that awesome intro. I appreciate it.
Ben, I think you're the third.
Fourth.
Fourth now, the person that's done this. So we're the
Awesome.
shittest podcasters in the West. Well, we're not even in the West because Ashwin's sort of in the Middle East-ish, mid Asia. Okay, we're the crappiest podcasters on this 2/3 of the. No, that doesn't work either. We just not
In the
very good
Commonwealth.
podcasters.
In the Commonwealth.
In
We're
the Commonwealth, yeah. Yes. Oh dear, Royal Britannia. Give me back my tea. So Ben, as an ex-Googler, you're accused of selling the Kool-Aid with PMax and automation, but you genuinely believe in it. Tell us why.
I do believe in it. We use it to find incremental pockets of growth for us. It has done very well in identifying new angles or themes that we can capture via search, things that we perhaps hadn't historically bid on because it was too competitive or just too challenging, or things that we just would have never thought would have converted for our business. PMax has been able to shed light into, and then we take that learning from PMax and go build a whole search strategy against it. So, it's always learning for us, and then we're stealing from it and then building it into search, where I think people think I drink the Kool-Aid on that, because I think a lot of advertisers think of it as like all or nothing, right? They look at PMax and like Google's saying use PMax, and all the reps are doing the same. They take the suggestions or the documentation from Google too much, and they're interpreting that they need to use PMax for everything, and everything should move over to PMax, where there's a middle ground, and even less, like I think it's like 10 to 20% of our spend. So I think in the way that you use it, there's a better opportunity than having to use it for everything and it being like the one and all campaign for Google. I don't think that that's where we're at, and maybe we'll go there. We can talk about like the future, but as for now, think of it as a dynamic search ad that just finds new search terms to go after.
Do you use DSA as well, or have you just replaced that with PMax?
We've replaced most of it with PMax.
Oh, you heathen! I'm still a fan of DSA. That is interesting, and I take it that's just because it gives you, because of your level of spend, it just gives you a broader spectrum of reach and more data because you're going across multiple platforms. Yeah, interesting. Better than DSA.
I think DSA definitely still has its place. We have as you can imagine, a very granular and well built out search structure. So we like to think we cover most of the queries. And then PMax, we just run pretty much across everything.
When you're spending 10 mil a month, your account obviously is probably quite large and segmented, because obviously you do lots of different things. I know you do all sorts of sports and theatrical stuff. And just for sort of like a bit of context, because obviously we can't visualize it because it's a private company. But I mean, how many campaigns and ad groups are we talking about? Hundreds of campaigns or even bigger, or multiple accounts even?
Lots of campaigns. We've got for any given day, there's probably like 120,000 events in the country that are being advertised. We try to create specific content for as many as we can.
How many people manage that?
45 people right now. Yeah, but there's a lot of work that has to go on with. One example is just like fitting an artist name that is 20 characters into 30 character headlines. There's a lot of work that has to be done there to trim them and still make them legible and relevant, etc. So a good chunk of work and ideation around that.
So you've gone from seeing hundreds of accounts to essentially a single account.
That's right. Yeah.
Are you allowed to say how much you spend a month?
Yeah, I mean we're at like 100 to 120 million a year.
Yeah.
We're selling tickets to events, so it really depends on what's going on in the country, and it's all US based events. But I'd say like probably 10 to 15 mil a month, about average.
A little more when Taylor Swift is on tour, I bet.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, you fucking stole my joke. I was going to say Swifty.
I've been spending too much time around it. I knew exactly what direction it was going in.
Yes.
It's true though, isn't it?
Just to point out an example with like something like Taylor Swift, if we were doing CPC bidding or anything but ROAS bidding, in my opinion, we'd either get burned or just leave a ton of sales on the table, right? Because the fluctuation in prices and the search queries were so different, and the intent wasn't always there. People just wanted to see the prices and decide if they would go, etc. It really changed things, and especially people were traveling for that event more than we typically see, right? People were going international or across the country, and that changed a lot. Like if we had like the old school manual approach to Google Ads, we'd get burned. But because we leaned so heavily into like we call the modern search playbook, we were able to fly at the ROAS that we needed and not have to do a ton of work to include or exclude. We kind of let the machine do the work there, and we had an awesome year during that time.
This is not a question that's on the list, but you've just called it the modern search playbook.
Yeah.
Does that mean stick 10 million dollars in PMax and let it rock?
No, not at all. PMax is a low percentage of our overall spend. I personally look at PMax as like a glorified DSA, dynamic search ad, that we use to just pick up anything that we're not targeting specifically in our search structure.
What, like 80-20? Do you think 20% of budget's in PMax?
Probably 10.
Oh, even less.
Yeah, it's probably less. We don't have shopping though, right? There's no shopping, so
No.
it'd be higher with shopping.
So it really is incremental for you guys.
Yeah, that's how we've set it up. Yeah, and we regularly go through, find search terms in there, and then put them into search specifically.
Nice.
So we're really just trying to use it to find new pockets for us.
So I got a question specifically because you said that you have a pretty robust and granular setup. So in addition to PMax, what other types of automation do you use to keep everything running? Because I imagine at that size and structure, it just becomes nearly impossible to do it all by hand.
We're big proponents of broad match, target ROAS bidding, and sharing budgets and a big portfolio bid strategy. Really just trying to give as much consolidation as we can to the machine for it to make its decisions. And then we have some processes, mine search terms and make decisions on if we want to add them or exclude them. Probably really relevant to Ed, a lot of RSA optimizations to try to make, our ads as relevant, as compelling as we can to stand out against the competition. So a bunch of different work streams going on there. We've got a number of people working on various aspects of that sort of process.
Have you, or has the business replaced anyone with automation or AI yet?
We haven't replaced anyone, and it's not our intention to. There's so much work to be done that if AI can solve one problem, we would love to move people on to more challenging things and just keep that rotation going,
Love that.
So
yeah,
there you go. There's an optimistic answer.
Yes.
For anyone listening.
Yeah, no, I don't think, I've tried a bunch of stuff. Like, it's good enough. It's not great.
When your boss hands you a 9-figure ad budget, he or she doesn't expect good enough. They expect great.
That's right.
Fantastic. That's right. And yeah, it's just not there yet.
It's to get you up and running from walking to sprinting, but Linford Christie's still going to overtake you. And now Linford Christie, that's a proper throwback name. You might not get the reference. British track star. Usain Bolt would be the modern alternative.
Gotcha.
But
Yes.
I think
we will
Live
catch
for
it,
Christie's got a bigger lunchbox, but we'll leave it there. I know Ashwin does, but I don't normally talk to client side because most of my audience is, I'd say it's about 80% agency and freelancer. So you've got a completely different take, which is good. You're less anti and less combative towards Google,
Correct.
for sure,
Yeah.
just by nature.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Our whole
Yeah.
business, most of our business, or 98% of our sales come through Google. So,
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
yeah. So I'm very pro, obviously.
Ben came across my radar for the first time when he was still with Google, and he was basically telling all of us that we're stupid for crapping on PMax and we should just trust the machines. And everybody got so mad at him. Like, I still remember people were like,
Who is this guy? He has no respect for agencies. And I was just like,
This guy's a fresh breath of air. Like,
I may not agree with everything you said, but dude,
Sure.
it was so nice to hear somebody just be like, yeah, this shit is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, and yes, I came in hot. I think just trying to make some noise. But when I was at Google, I've seen hundreds of accounts, maybe thousands of accounts, and like a lot of those people aren't on Twitter, and I see it working, and so I was just trying to bring that to light in my own little way. But yeah, that's why I was so pro and trying to call out things that people weren't considering or thinking about.
That's the scary thing with PPC pros and their opinions. Some of them are managing 2 accounts, and the statistical significance is quite low. And this is not to poo on them, because everyone starts somewhere and everyone has a finite time and resources. But yeah, you get a lot of strong opinions from people that might not have the data to back it up. I've got AdEvolver, so I've got a lot of data, which it does help. It does help, and I have in the past queried things just to see, what's the best bidding strategy? Well, there isn't one for a start, so that's that answered. You don't need data for that, but it does prove it. So yeah, it's
The other thing I wanted to ask, because a lot of our viewers and listeners don't manage that level of budget, is it specifically because you have that much budget to play with? Is that why you lean into all of this automation? Like, would you approach it differently if you had 1% of that ad budget?
My thought on budgets and Google Ads is that budgets should not exist with Google Ads. I think it's all demand based, and you should spend as much as you can at the target that you want to hit. And we see this every day. Like, demand changes and intent changes on a daily or even hourly level, and if you're setting budgets, you're either going to leave a ton of sales on the table, or you're going to overspend when you don't need to be. So I've always been, and a lot of my time at Google, I was always a proponent of uncapped budgets and using your ROAS or CPA target as the lever to spend versus an artificially made budget, because there's no way you could set the right budget and be able to forecast these things. Like, we've seen drastic changes on an hourly or even daily level. So budget is not something we even consider or talk about. We want to spend as much as we can at the target that we want to achieve.
very different to a local business where there's maybe a team of 3 HVAC engineers or whatever, and the limit isn't how many tickets can we sell, it's physically booking in the time. I think there'd be a lot of small business owners going, no budget, Ben's crazy. But I get where you're coming from in that.
For the HVAC guys, like, I would probably just set my CPA targets, or whatever target you're setting,
A bit lower.
Yeah, exactly. Make more margin, lower the volume, but make more margin. I don't know. I hear you, and like, you have limited.
No, I agree. I kind of agree.
Yeah,
If I see a
limited inventory, sure, but just make more margin on it.
If I see a limited budget on a campaign, there better be a good reason. Because I'm like, well, if other budgets are being spent elsewhere, why is that campaign limited at the top? That's your highest spender. Surely that should be freed up and the others should be paused off.
Which is why I also am a strong proponent of a shared budget, where setting a budget per campaign to me is nonsense, unless you have different strategies, like truly different strategies or different margins or products at the campaign level, where sure, there's a case. But if you don't, you should just share budgets across all the campaigns and let Google spend where it wants to spend.
It makes perfect sense when you put it that way, actually.
Right.
I'm not going to agree with him.
No, I mean, okay, it varies by industry. If you don't have those restrictions or limitations, then
Yes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah. Which comes back to if you've got a budget limited status, it's like why? And if it's a case of that you don't have the inventory or you can't physically service it, okay. If there are significant splits between the campaigns, for example, across different services, then I'd say
Sure.
shared budget might be suboptimal.
Where it makes sense, it is a nice unlock.
This is the problem, isn't it? Like everything with Google Ads, it's got to be caveated because there'll be someone sat there going, "Oh, I tried it, Ben, and it's blown up." And it's like, I've got 127 broad match keywords, the, and, when, the, and it just didn't work for me. And
Yeah.
you have to be careful with advice sometimes. But
Yeah,
Yes.
we take no responsibility for anything you guys try based on the advice you hear, or
Not financial
not
advice.
necessarily advice. Yeah.
100% entertainment value.
But I also feel the same way about a portfolio bid strategy, right? So having a shared budget and a general ROAS target across similar campaigns to me makes the most sense, where your campaigns are just organizational buckets where you can keep the themes and the targeting perhaps the similar and bucket them all, but let them all share together and give more volume into the objective you're trying to hit.
Yeah, agree with that. I've always been proponent of portfolio bids, and I have often used them in a slightly perverse way where a lot of people will set a max bid. I'll set a min bid higher than expected to essentially force you into an auction. Not as efficient, but essentially where you can be aggressive if you've got a bit of an edge, particularly on a product or something. But yeah, portfolio bids make complete sense. Shared budgets though, oh.
Well, the two together are like, I feel like they have
Far
to work
more
together.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to this quote from Ben in the Wall Street Journal, which I really liked. So the article is about performance max campaigns delivering higher traffic numbers than traditional search ad buys. And Ben's quote is, "As long as it's delivering profitable sales to us, I don't really care where it's running and what it's doing," which is a stark contrast to practically every other PPC professional I know who wants to see like every little detail, and I want to know which keywords and which asset groups and which ad combinations of the RSA, and they just want to see everything. And I get it, like especially if you're running ads for a law firm where the CPCs can be hundreds of dollars. Yeah, okay, it makes sense. But for the average account, do you really need it? I think that's up for debate. The original question that I was going to pose to you, Ben, was what is your setup like that lets you approach it this way? But we already covered that part, right? Many ad accounts, and you treat PMAX as an incremental campaign that brings in things that you normally wouldn't want to target or think of targeting. So I'll ask you this instead. Talk to us a little bit about the mentality behind that, because it seems to me like you're treating PMAX like a really high-level employee, and it's like, hey, if you're getting me results, I don't give a crap how you're doing your job.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I think the need, and this is definitely going to piss some people off, so I apologize ahead of time, but I think the need for these granular, or the desire for the granular insights, are from PPC consultants, agencies, freelancers who feel the need to, like, they're trying to justify their existence in the ad account. There is probably a rational fear of automation taking a lot of the work away from agencies and freelancers, where, as PMAX improves and is able to do a good or a better job than someone managing the ad account, of course, people who are getting paid to manage ad accounts are going to try to not use it and fight against it. So I think the need for all of these insights are to help give PPCers like a means for existence and being able to control or report back on what's working and what's not working, where I personally don't think the end client really cares which keyword match to which ad or which asset is running the most, et cetera, et cetera. Like, of course, maybe the channel level splits or audience insights is useful, but it's not a need. I think it's just like something to show to end clients, or be able to talk badly about PMAX. Like, can you believe it spent $100 on this click? Instead of it actually just driving the business results that someone's looking to achieve.
Agreed.
That was a 50 caliber shot.
Like, if you had an actual report of what you're looking for, it's like overwhelming, and you're not going to do
Mm.
much with it. Like maybe you'll take 20% of it and make some new campaigns, but that stuff's there. Like there's enough there. There's enough meat there in what they report, and that's improving all the time, that I think you can get away. There's enough there to use versus like completely bashing it, because I think that's just defending their job, to be honest.
Most of the work is making sure it's working, and trying to extract that extra 1 or 2% increment is the same amount of work again. If you can get reliable data, I've been preaching this for years now. So is your time really worth that 1 or 2%? Is your client's spend really worth, or should you be looking outside the account? I did a video on, we should probably link it, the ultimate solution, and it essentially talks about all the things. All the things is like 6 or 7 pillars, and only one of them is Google Ads. And it's all about managing Google Ads, but only one pillar is Google Ads, because there's so much other stuff that goes on that impacts Google Ads. Therefore, here's a 20% increment, here's a 50%. You can't do that in Google Ads unless you're making a fundamental error. And I'm completely unbiased in this, because I sell a bloody framework which, you know, trains people how to optimize Google Ads. So even I will say, I agree with you, Ben. People overthink it. They don't want to trust the back box, and I understand why. But ultimately, if you actually had 100% of what you wanted, I think most people would be overwhelmed by that data anyway. And there are so many more increments and compounding benefits you can get from working outside the account anyway.
Even if you weren't overwhelmed by it, like how much of that can you really action? I mean, you're not going to be able to do everything if you're doing all the things that should be done. And so the perspective I come from is, you know, my background is as an agency copywriter, but not like a digital copywriter, a mainline traditional copywriter. I didn't look at the inside of a Google Ads campaign till like 2019. And I never managed one until my first senior in-house role in 2020. I've always approached Google Ads as like, it's just a vehicle for core traditional marketing, right? If I don't have a narrative, or even if I'm in a more commoditized industry, like if I don't have my product and my pricing down, if I don't have my targeting, if I don't understand my consumers and their behavior and what's important to them, where they spend their time, like if I don't show up with that, I could throw as much money as I want at Google Ads, it's never gonna like deliver the results.
That's right.
At the same time, I do think some of the clamor for 100% data visibility, I understand it, because people are used to that. That was like the promise that Google Ads made from the beginning. So if you've been in this game for like 10 years or 15 years and you're used to that, it's difficult to make peace with the fact that things are going this way.
100%. But I mean, look at everything. Everything's getting disrupted right now. I mean, literally everything. So like, why just, you know, people, you can sit around and complain and just get smoked by people who are leaning into it, and that's gonna happen. And in 10, 15 years, there's been a ton of shifts in Google Ads. This is a dramatic one for sure, but it's continuous. And I think the best marketers are those that can pivot and adapt and keep it going. And those are going to be the people that are in demand. Not, to be honest, anyone who uses the term PPC to me is already toast. But because you're not paying per click, you're paying for ROAS, in my opinion. That's how I think about it. And I think you've always just got to be shifting and evolving, and you're foolish not to.
And also, let's not forget, I mean, I've been in the industry 15 years, and a bit of nostalgia. I mean, I like the old interface, but the automated bidding, when it first came out, it wasn't, you know, it was a bit wonky. And Broad has had peaks and troughs, but again, for years, I've been saying, you know, if Broad's appropriate for your industry, trust it, or at least try it, because it will take a lot of work out of it for you. Automated bidding, I mean, really, if you start on manual CPC, fair enough, especially on smaller accounts, but your ultimate goal should be to offload that onto automation. Bloody hell, we used to have multiple scripts and all sorts of databases running on bidding years and years ago to adjust manual bidding based on loads of data inputs, this, that, and the other. Now Google just does it in a heartbeat automatically for every auction. We used to do that. We thought we built AI. It wasn't really AI, it was algorithms, but the amount of effort we went to perform in industries like insurance and stuff like that, we went that extra mile. And then as soon as Google got the automated bidding into a high gear, just smoked all that work we didn't need it at all. Did not need it. And I look back and think, good, because it was a pain in the backside. The more things they take away, so long as the performance is there, I wouldn't complain too much, because there's so much we can do outside the accounts, even
That's
for a
right.
small business.
If we think about where this is going, to me, it's very clear it's going to a keywordless future. You know, with something like Search Max, I don't know if you guys have played with Search Max at all. It's using your ad assets and your landing page content to match to search terms. So it basically is the first taste, that and PMax, but that's just DSA. But Search Max to me truly is like a step toward this keywordless sort of concept where you just give it a URL and a ROAS budget and a ROAS target, and it figures it out. So like if you're still stuck complaining about lack of search term visibility or whatever it is, and then this stuff starts to roll out and people are leveraging it and adopting it, you're going to get left behind. And you've got to be thinking about what Google's trying to do and thinking 10 steps ahead so that you're ready. So when it rolls out, you can take advantage of it.
Yeah. I've got a piece of training called Ad Recon, and it is novel. I've never seen anyone do it before. It's probably been replicated now, but essentially helps you scope out the search market and work with your client to come up to help them with their positioning, their offer. That doesn't revolve around the Google Ads account whatsoever. It revolves around the market, the search market, the industry, and the audience, and what people are looking for, what competitors are doing. So yeah, it's work like that that's going to be far more important. And I've said it as well, Ben, that we're going to have to give them a budget and a URL, and that'll probably be it. When does that come? We're probably a few years off it, but I think that's the inevitability, isn't it? We'll get to the point where it's give me a website, give me your... I don't know how they fix the conversion tracking situation, first-party data and stuff like that. But again, that's another tool that we have to be in control of, first-party data, ensuring tracking's solid, and that we're actually vetting and verifying that data outside of Google Ads. Again, instead of just being inside ads, trusting the data, trusting the conversion metrics, which is not something we're going to discuss, so I won't take it there, but I'm sure you have your own business data and don't look at Google Ads going, oh, well, I trust every single metric in there.
Yeah, of course. And even for like e-commerce businesses that I've worked with, the direct correlation between Meta or Facebook ad performance and Google ad performance is like crystal clear when you look outside the ad account and you're looking at all the different levers that are moving there. All these platforms are taking way too much credit for what they're delivering in most cases. So you've got to balance it out with what your bank account looks like at the end of the day, and be able to take that outside perspective to look at things. And because there's no one source of truth, there's just, the bank account's the source of truth, but looking at in platform, it's way off usually. So there's a lot more going on there.
Yeah, and we brought this up when we spoke to Gil Gildner as well. Many Google Ads marketers have a tendency to just look at the data and nothing else. And I feel like that does hamper your decision making. I feel like we've had a period now of, let's call it 15, 18 years where this concept of the data-driven marketer has come to be like I don't understand the fundamentals of marketing. And that might be a bit of an extreme way to put it, but if you're not looking at, the stuff that Ed mentioned in his ad recon, right? Your offer, your pricing, and all this other stuff, the things that you called out, the landing page. Like if you're getting to a future where Google Ads is going to take your landing page and your budget and your ROAS target and work off that. Like if you don't have a stellar landing page and you're not super clear about what audience you want to go after and what problem they have and where in the journey they are, like you're just not going to be able to make it. And I feel like we're now going back to this old school marketing where it was all about the customer and what they want to do and where they are and what motivates them, and getting more of the psychographics and the psychology of the buyer. And I really look forward to that because, coming from a traditional creative background, I've really despised the amount of math and numbers and statistics that have permeated marketing. And I'm not saying that it's all bad. It would be great to still have that. It's come at the cost of creative thinking. And so I feel like moving back to that is going to make us all better marketers if we lean into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've gotten into tons of fights on Twitter and LinkedIn about, I don't think CPCs matter. I don't think CTR matters. I don't think any of these ancillary metrics really matter. I'm willing to pay $500 for a click if it's going to get me $2,000 in sales. I don't really care how much the click costs. And I think people, to your point, are obsessed with data and optimize towards those things where there's not a correlation between what your blended CPC is and your blended ROAS is. It's on a query or an auction level, and you're chasing the wrong path if you're trying to optimize towards anything but the end result that you're telling Google that you care about.
Yeah, see high CPCs with respect, Ben, because you've got a big budget, and I know you haven't always had a big budget. You've worked on the other side with Google, but there are lots and lots of small businesses out there where they've got maybe $2,000 to spend. A misplaced click, shall we call it, that's $50 or $100 really rattles their affordability. So I get why a lot of people stress and threat over these high CPCs, but only if it's happening frequently. And then there's obviously the conspiracy theory that Google likes to slip them in just because a few of them, I think I started this one because I was like, you know what? If I ran Google, do less evil, or progressively do more evil, I think is the new term. I would just have like a ratchet system. So I think I described it as like a big screen with a big number on it, and you walk into this room and you just pull the arm on this gambler. And then across 50 million ad accounts, it just randomly inserted a 10x bid on one random search term, and everyone had to pay an extra 10. And you'd see the revenue outcome, and you'd be like, "Woo, it's a few billion in just those spurious clicks. I'll take that today." And then you go off and have your cup of coffee. So now people probably have a conspiracy complex that Google keeps slipping them in to make extra profit every quarter.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, cost of doing business is the way I look at it.
Yeah, pretty ruthless, but yeah.
All right, let me pose this question to both of you. If Google Ads is getting prohibitively expensive for small businesses, and SEO is dying because everybody is suddenly searching through LLMs, which is not the case, people are not going to stop looking for their problems on a search engine, right? And people are still going to expect to find products, solutions, services, all that other stuff. Like, realistically, what happens? Like, can you think of anything else? Because there's still a group, like millions of people searching for things on Google or whatever search engine.
People are going to buy tickets. People are going to employ a plumber to fix a boiler. People employ a carpet cleaner because they spilt that cup of coffee after they shouted at the screen because Google sent them a $200 click. That comes down to business optimization, not Google Ads. If your Google Ads account is 95% there, essentially you've got it too easy. You've got it onto easy mode. Good landing page, the right keyword selection, the right approach to bidding, budget. Your ad copy's not, out of whack. There's not a hell of a lot more that needs to happen. If you've then got issues, it's the business that needs to be optimized.
Exactly.
How are we handling the phone calls? Are you even picking up the bloody phone? Are you getting back to people? E-commerce, is the product any good? Is it price sensitive? Is it priced well? Do you have customer service issues? Is there a return customer problem? And that is, I think, going forwards, that more consultative approach is far more valuable to a business than, hey, I do PPC. And I'm just going to say PPC, Ben, just to wind you up.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
It's going to piss people off to hear this, but you're not entitled to results from Google Ads or SEO or whatever. If you put in the work, and a lot of people think that the work is what worked 10 years ago. But if you put in the work today and your demand is there, you're going to capture that demand, whether it's through organic results or paid results. And if you're not capturing it, like you both said, the business needs work.
And traffic from Google Ads should be extremely expensive. Like, it's people literally looking to buy your product or service right now. It should be the most expensive ad placement I can think of. Like, there's nothing better than it. And the platform's job is to get you high intent traffic. They're not promising that they're going to convert. That's on you, right? To Ed's point, pick up the phone, return a phone call, pass the right data back into the system. Like, I see all these people complaining about poor lead quality, but they're not even passing back like offline conversions or lead scores or anything, right? Like, there's things that need to go back into the system and also be optimized in your business to convert that traffic profitably. And that's outside of the account entirely.
It reminds me, years ago, I had a lead come in for the agency and they said, Google Ads doesn't work, wasting money. It was wasted money with some guy that consulted or whatever. And I was like, oh God, one of them. Let me have a look at the account. No conversion tracking, 10 grand a month.
Crazy.
And I was just like, okay, like what? You're just not even doing what? Didn't work with them because the owner was an absolute tosser. But yeah, he can't. His arrogance was something along the lines of, "Oh, I should be able to just throw money at it and customers come." I'm like, "Well, you're not even tracking the like basic conversion, like just a basic sale of your thing." And this should excite people because there's the threat of AI is looming, and everyone's like, "We're going to get wiped out." But there's so many things we can do, and it is more work. This is the problem. And I was like this for years. If you're quite happy being hidden away in your Google Ads account, you're going to hate the next 2 to 5 years because it's going to require more than that. The fundamentals of Google Ads are still going to be, imperative. So you still need God tier ads, obviously, a solid framework. Throw it on the screen. But times are shifting. You're going to have to expand your knowledge base, which leads on to the question beautifully, which is the first time I've ever managed that, which is Ben's advice for someone coming into the industry right now, so Google Ads today, without the biases of, someone like me, the old-fashioned guys, the OGs, as some people call us, who've had to change. But yeah, if you're coming in today, I mean, what would your advice be to someone like you might employ, for example, or hire for the team?
I think quality really, really matters in all aspects of the account. So I would encourage someone to manually fill out all of the RSA assets, site links, etc., all by hand to get a really good grasp on what's going on, and make sure like literally have 3 screens up. You've got your keywords on the left, whatever you're working on here, and you've got your search terms on the right to see what people are actually searching and what's matching, and truly understand the sort of themes and angles that are converting or are not converting for you. And by hand, sit down and write out, if it's 100 ad groups and you're doing 2 or 3 RSAs per, just bang it out by hand, and then start to move into more leveraging more tools or automation to do it. But really understand the fundamentals and like literally see the change. Like when you're building an RSA, you can watch I know that the ad strength doesn't matter per se, but understand what makes that score change. Like if you add a keyword into your headline, you're going to see the score go up, and understand those things and see all those dynamics of how that works, and then just continue that over time, and then optimize them and see the whole life cycle of where you started this RSA and where it gets to as you optimize it over time, and do the work, understand the levers and what ticks and how it's all working before you try to automate or use AI or anything for it.
So no shortcuts. Essentially, the fundamentals, the unsexy thing that no one cares about anymore because everyone wants to go to 0 to 60 yesterday. And everyone that skips them they might initially get the leg up on the person that doesn't skip them, but the person that commits to the fundies will compete out, and they will beat everyone else because they're actually putting the effort in. There's no free lunch. There's no easy work. And I remember when I started, crikey, I used to work 80 hours a week, killing myself, trying to start a bloody agency. I put in the reps, and now it does seem, and I sadly, I see it when people email me, I do, and maybe I'm partly to blame because I sell a product that has shortcuts in it, but they're shortcuts to knowledge, they're not shortcuts to the performance. You've still got to put the reps in. So yeah, I do like that answer. If you had to complement, and I know you're going to be biased because of the industry you're in now, but if you had to complement Google Ads with another skill set, let's say you're hiring someone for your team tomorrow, and they appear with a little bit of Google Ads knowledge, they're just getting into the game, but they've got something else that complements it. What's that thing that you think is critical now or really attractive?
Great question. Yeah, I think data analytics, just being able to interpret reports and metrics. I know there's a lot of theory, I think, that goes into interpreting performance and analytics. So I would want someone to have a POV and just a grasp of what it all means and entails, and which ones matter and which ones don't. And you put those two together, and you can start to become more dangerous of understanding how the system works precisely, like all the inputs and outputs that you're getting from it, and then be able to match that with performance in and outside of the ad account. To me, I think would make someone really sharp.
Critical thinking.
Yeah. I like that you said interpret data and not read it, because
Sure.
My complaint about data-driven marketers is that they read the data and they just kind of parrot what they see back at leadership. And it's like, okay, anybody can read a chart, but like, what does it mean? You know, where are the gaps, where are the opportunities? You have to know your industry and your customers and their pain points. And if you don't have that background, all you're going to see is numbers. If you do have that, like you look at the numbers and you could see like desire, hope, ambition, whatever it is.
This is why I hate reports. This is why our client reports were 1 page. And I hate these 20-page reports that go, all your metrics are this, that. It's like, it's nonsense. Like, our clients used to get spend and whatever their North Star was, if it was conversion volume or revenue or whatever. And then we might have some complementary metrics sprinkled in. But it's like, how much did I put in? How much did I get out? Are you doing your job based on that? And all these people sharing these report templates, and sorry to people like Report Guard and stuff like that, if anyone works there and watches this, because there are lots of tools out there selling reports. And the amount of times I've been approached like, we've got this wonderful client, whatever, portal thing. And I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
I don't want to give them all the data I've got, because even I don't understand all the data I've got. That is just a big hurdle, a 20-foot high hurdle.
Yes, but even to build on that, a major problem I saw when I was at Google and still persists today with our reps and probably everyone's reps is I don't think that they also understand the concept of cost of goods and margins. So, they'll tell me, why is your ROAS at 3.5 or whatever it may be, right? Because I have like costs to deliver this product. And they're like, oh, if you put it to 3, you'd make more money. Like, well, actually I would lose money on my bottom line because of this. So I think agencies, PPCers, whoever also need to understand the cost of their business, like the cost of their client's business and what will actually make them more money and all of those dynamics on the P&L. And I think that's also really over like an oversight in reports when you just report on ROAS and revenue. It's not. You need to get to the granular aspects of how much money they're making. Because
I do teach people, so I shouldn't say this because there are no bad questions, but there is bad thought. And that is something that triggers a question, what's a good ROAS? I mean, what the hell does that even mean? What? Every business is different. Like you've just said, profits, margins, static costs, whatever. And that's where critical thinking is lacking, because people are like, what's a good cost of conversion? What bidding strategy? It's just these throwaway, think for me. Exactly. Could you just think for me? It's like, no.
It's such a big reason why LLMs are touted as like the next coming of marketing Christ.
Think for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But again, for the people that are going to put the work in, it still means that they get to remain relevant, and a little bit of critical thinking goes a long way. So
it does. Well, that's a great place to wrap it up. Critical thinking. I think we all could use a bit more of that, some more than others. Well, thank you for tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. If you want to follow Ben, which I highly recommend, his links are in the description. If you want to pick up God Tier Ads, link in the description. Sign up for Ed's email list where you get a bunch of freebies on how to scale smart bidding and other stuff. Link in the description. So go ahead and check that out. Thanks for watching. Look out for episode 5.